Thank you for joining us. This is beautiful. And those of you who've been here before, I think, know the drill. This is almost like custom now, where we start off with asking people where they're joining from. So do us a favor and type in the chat, in the Zoom chat, as to where you're joining from. I'm hoping to get a lot of continents. We still haven't gotten Antarctica yet. Someday we'll get that going. So where are you joining us from? Just put that in. We're going to wait. We're just going to give people another minute as they join in. And while we do that, I'm just going to play a pilot, which has been a childhood fantasy, and fly around the world and see where everyone is joining from. Oh, we got Lorraine right there. Gosh, the first person I clicked. Beautiful. It's cold in San Francisco, Lorraine. Wow. Okay. Thank you for joining us early in the morning. First thing, 8 o'clock in the morning. We got folks here. We got a lot of people on the East Coast. Tina here. I think it's taking some time to load up the weather and things in places. But let's just see what we've got in Asia. All right. We've got people here in the Middle East. We've got folks in India. We've got our friends in Europe. Thank you for joining us. Is that Syed? Yes, it's you can see that. We got Peter in Reading. Okay, we got Europe, we got Germany, we got other places. Fantastic. And actually, let's play around with this a little bit. I'd love to see this. This is my favorite one, by the way, where we go around the globe, and it's also a lot easier to kind of navigate. So, and I have a bad habit of making the world flip around at times. Hopefully, I will not do it today. Just checking if you have anyone from Australia. I'd be very, very surprised. And no one in Singapore. So I think the furthest east we've got is in Shillong. Beautiful. Thank you, folks, for joining us. This is going to be a fantastic session. And by the way, if you haven't put it yet in the chat, please continue to type as to where you're joining from. That also gives our speaker, who I'm super thrilled to have today, a fair sense of who's in the room and various places that we have literally covered across the world. Don't mind me as I keep doing this. It's something I can't help. Just flying around and turning the globe around. It's something beautiful about doing it, right? Gosh, this is a session that I've been looking forward to for a very, very long time. I first met Lorraine during the pandemic when she was kicking off a course with Maven. And I think I might get my timelines wrong, so forgive me here, Lorraine, but I think you were at Prezi at that time. You worked at so many cool companies, it's easy to lose track. Prezi, yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So at Prezi, which by the way is one of my favorite presentation software companies, used them 15 years back, still a huge fan of Prezi. And I said, oh, someone from Prezi in digital flesh and blood, this is super cool. And then she went on to do even more cool things. And I've been following what Lorraine has been doing, and it's one cool thing after the other, right? Right from that course over there, she was working with LinkedIn earlier. She's got quite a few courses on LinkedIn right now. More than, I mean, I lose count and I'm outdated each time. More than 300,000 followers on LinkedIn. Her work is being quoted in various places, CNBC, in Forbes, Entrepreneur, whole bunch of places. She has written a beautiful book, and here it is. It's an unforgettable book, not just because it's called Unforgettable Presence, and you can't read the back cover, so I'm going to do that for you. You got amazing folks out here. You got CEOs of Zoom, our favorite meeting platform. Eric Huan is one of the people quoted here. You've got the CEO of Tinder. You've got the CEO of Kickstarter. You've got content creators like Corporate Natalie. And you've got best-selling authors of Daniel Pink and Vivian Tu, who both written best-selling, New York Times best-selling books of their own. And I mean, we'll talk about the book a little bit more. And please, folks, stick around. At the end, we're going to be giving away a couple of copies of this book as well. And for those of you not lucky enough to win a copy, I would strongly recommend you go and purchase one and follow Lorraine and her work. We'll share the links in the chat as we go forward as well. But Lorraine, fill in the blanks. Give us a quick introduction besides what I've covered. Tell us a little bit more about you, please.
Of course. Well, so nice to meet all of you. Amazing to see the global representation here. I feel like it's probably pretty late for some of you. So thank you for showing up. As Lex mentioned, I have a very cool tech background where I had the chance to be a founding editor at LinkedIn, where I worked on products like LinkedIn newsletters, that news module you see in the top right-hand corner of your feed. I moved to Hong Kong for a year to work on that, so I'd write my news during the day, and then the US would wake up to fresh news. So I was at LinkedIn for 6 years, and then I moved to Prezi afterwards as their first ever editorial hire, and so that was amazing as well. I was there for 3 years, but unfortunately got impacted by tech layoffs at the end of 2022, and then at the start of 2023, created my business, Rise Learning Solutions, and now I continue to speak, train, create courses. The book just came out a few months ago, like Lex mentioned, and I'm just so excited to be here talking to you all today.
Thank you. Hey, so let's start with the book. And then, by the way, I'm going to keep moving things around if that's okay. Which is like,
Sure.
I noticed a lot more people have chimed in with where they're joining from, and we've actually got someone who beat Shillong in terms of going further east. You got people from the Philippines. So
Ah, okay.
yeah, so you got that. That's as far east as
Right.
we've gone, I think.
Yeah.
I'm just going to move that. But what inspired the book? So tell us a bit more about that.
The book was not something that I have had on my vision board for like, 10, 15 years. Our mutual friend Arun actually is the one who first planted the idea about the book because he had seen me come out with a LinkedIn Learning course and he was, congratulating me. And then he goes, "Oh, when's the book coming out?" And I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting idea. Like, I've never thought about writing a book, but I guess it kind of makes sense given the space that I'm in and the sort of the thought leadership that I like putting out there." And then, so I kind of stored that away. And then when I eventually started my own business, that's when publishers started reaching out. So one reached out, and then, a little bit imposter syndrome, like, is this the right time? And then a few more reached out, and then I thought, okay, this is the universe telling me that it's time to write this book. And so I did it. And so I did it with Wiley. They turn around books quite quickly. So the writing only completed last year, editing went into this year, and then they spent a few months printing, and then it came out in April.
Wow. April. So it's just 3 months, is it, since the book came
Yeah,
out?
yeah, it's still a baby book.
For some reason, I mean, I guess I was one of the first people to buy it soon after it came out, but it just feels like it's been longer. Gosh, it's just 3 months. Okay. And
Yeah,
I
thing, right? You see it around, hopefully, and yeah, people are talking about it, so feels like it's been out longer.
and it's already an Amazon bestseller as well, I gather, right?
Yep, also named a must read by the Next Big Idea Club, which was very, very exciting.
Congratulations. I like how you say imposter syndrome, and then you casually throw in the fact that it's published by no one less than Wiley. So that's fantastic, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm very lucky.
I love the fact that sometimes with books you don't know where you are in the middle of a book. But what I loved a lot about this book was you have a lot of pattern breaking through the book, where you have blurbs and call outs and images and graphics, and it's easy to remember where you are and navigate through the book and then recap and go through it. Like in prep for today, I was just going through and I just found it was ridiculously easy to go back and refresh myself on what I read about more than a month ago, right? So that's beautiful. So congrats again on that. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, with everything I do, I want to make it really tactical. I want people to just have a takeaway and be able to take action immediately because otherwise, why are you reading the book, So that
Yeah.
was my intention, yeah.
And I think what it just describes a beautiful testament to journeys as well, because Arun, who we are big fans of here at Stream Alive, greatly helped us with building out the Stream Alive app, and Zoom, which I will shamelessly plug, is the number one AI education and employee engagement app. And we just love the entire Zoom apps team. They're just so much fun to work with. I think Arun used to work with SlideShare, which got acquired by LinkedIn, and he came as part of that journey, and you came with a different journey. And here we are on our own journeys and paths intersecting. I think it's just beautiful.
It is, it is.
Okay, and if you have a few more people plug in where they're joining from, which is a great occasion for me to put another of my favorite images out here. I love the blueprint one as well. And yeah, we've gone further east over here. But what I want to do is, you talked about tailoring the message. So with your permission, what I thought we'll do, I've got a few. Here's what I did, Lorraine. I think I just said, let's keep this freewheeling. Let's keep it casual. I put a few questions over here, and if you don't like the questions, you want to put something else, we can just add stuff. But we like to kick it off with asking people a couple of questions, just so you can tailor it accordingly. Because your book has sections on presentations, on presence in LinkedIn, on meetings. There's a lot, and I suspect this needs to be one of many sessions that we do with you. Just throwing a hint out there, yeah. So what I thought we could do is just get a sense of who's in the room, if that's okay, you know. So, folks, if you can just participate in the chat, in a word or two. We don't want your entire bio. We'll save that for another time. In fact, keep your LinkedIn profile ready separately. I'll tell you about that later. But just a word or two, can you describe what you do, your role? So that way, Lorraine gets a bit of a better idea of who's in the room. So you can just put that in the chat, please. All right. So Lorraine, hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavor. We got marketers,
Yeah.
we got the facilitator who's, if you haven't followed, is a friend of Stream Alive. This is Said from Germany. He's a facilitator and an entertainer, hence the facilitator. We got
Yeah.
instructional designers, we got founders of companies, we got digital technology trainers. So a lot of people in some form of training, in some form of facilitation, marketing, leading, and don't want to be presumptuous, but from what I've read of your book, I think that's kind of spot on. Would you say?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's something in the book for all these people.
Actually, why don't we ask them if that's okay as well, right? Folks, I'm gonna since you're comfortable putting a word or two, I'm gonna ask you one more question before I turn it over to Lorraine. Um, we're glad you're here. But why did you join this session? What did you hope to expect? Is there something you hope to learn? Is there something that in particular piqued your attention? Because, like I said, it's not cast in stone. Lorraine said she'd be happy to, tweak it based on what the requirements are. Oh, Said, we love you too. Thank you. This is a feature called Talking Tiles, by the way. Lorraine, I don't know if I told you, is inspired by my co founders, Tina and Joe, who decades ago, when we were together in college,
Huh.
you furiously compete for the college Tetris championship. That tells you how ancient we are. But it's Tetris inspired, where we get everyone's responses coming in, and the ones on the bottom fly out after a little while. But tips and tricks. Okay, a lot of people in engaging virtual instructor-led training, VILT. You're speaking our language, Mickey. Thank you. Adding new tools to the facilitator toolbox, building connections over camera. That's super important. Learning new things. John, great to see you. Thank you.
Love this.
And more tools. Just to, if you miss some of those, what I'll do is maybe just summarize what people said here, Lorraine, and then add, you know love to, there's a lot about meetings and facilitation, and you have an entire chapter about meetings, right? So I'd love for you to talk. We'll just go through this, and then for you to talk about why that's so important. Yeah, so that's a summary of what people said: professional development, toolkit expansion, virtual connection, making it more engaging. Most folks are here to learn new skills. You're in the right place, folks. And do you have any alternate voices? Okay, curiosity, that's a great reason to join things. Beautiful. Excellent. So that hopefully gives you a summary of what folks are here for. But over to you. I mean, can you talk more about why meetings are so important to our present? I mean, we are technically in a meeting right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm really happy that everyone wants to learn how to be better at meetings because I describe meetings as such low-hanging fruit, such a big opportunity to really stand out. And the reason for that being is that most meetings are really bad and people are doing the bare minimum. So if you just, step it up a little bit, like you're going to really impress your colleagues. And because we have so many meetings in a day, it really is one of the most important touch points that we have to create an impression, to really build our presence, whether we are participating, whether we are leading. So I know meetings are not always the sexiest topic, but I'm happy that a lot of you are wanting to learn how to do it better because it's so important and very feasible to do.
Let me ask you the elephant in the room question for meetings. You and I don't have a virtual background. So what's your view on virtual backgrounds?
I say try to avoid a virtual background or a blurred background if you can. So I understand sometimes we're in a place or maybe we don't want to show what's behind us, but when we are on video, our brains are already working in overdrive to interpret the situation. There's the slightest lag with internet. We're not visibly aware of it, but it's happening. And so our minds are trying to piece the things together. And now, when we have virtual backgrounds, especially virtual backgrounds and sometimes blurred backgrounds, I'm sure you've all seen it where we're moving, like someone has the hoop earring and you can see the real background through it, or like they're moving their hand and the hand disappears off screen, or things are moving in and out. And it's very, very distracting for the other person who's trying to stay focused on you and trying to you want to make it feel like more like an in-person conversation, right? So the virtual background really takes you out of it, unless you have a green screen behind you, but most of us don't have a green screen behind us. So when you can, avoid it.
I like Said's comment over there. He says, blurred backgrounds always send some witness protection program vibe, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. What are you hiding back there, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Uh, actually, it's maybe correlated with the with the whole meetings thing as well, because when I met you first at that Maven thing, and then when we reconnected a couple of months back, when you actually shared the fact that you were an introverted speaker, you're not really someone who's very comfortable speaking in public, whether it's digital like we're doing right now, or I know you do a lot of in-person sessions as well. Are you doing a class at Stanford right now, and all of those? I candidly I find that hard to believe, right? Because one would look at you and say, okay, you're obviously a natural at this. But tell us about the whole journey, about the whole public speaking journey, and how that came to be, because that's pretty
Sure.
with the book and
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that, Lux. So my public speaking journey, I mean, I had done like bits and pieces. Like while I was at LinkedIn, I started a video series, highlighting female founders, and I was so freaking nervous. Like anytime I had to get in front of camera, but I knew like early on, I had this inkling like being on video is going to be an important skill set. So I did it, every now and then, but it wasn't really until I joined Prezi where I really wanted to learn this skill very intentionally. So this was at the start of 2021, so still a lot of virtual events happening, and Prezi asked all of us to come up with a personal goal for ourselves, something that can ideally help the business or tie to the business. And so I thought, okay, I'm working at a presentation company. I should get more comfortable presenting. And then I also had this coworker, Spencer, at the time, and I would watch him present, and I just thought, wow, he is so articulate. He looks so confident. There's a lot of really wonderful outcomes that happen when you can get comfortable public speaking. So thankfully, Spencer, he agreed to mentor me, to coach me. And so slowly but surely, I started improving, and I realized I enjoyed it, even though I still got nervous. I think all of us still get nervous, to some degree. And then it became kind of a side hustle. And then when I got laid off at the end of 2022, I figured, okay, there's been enough traction, enough momentum where I think maybe I can do this for a living. And so speaking is a big part of what I do. But to your point, Lux, like, introverts have so many superpowers, and this, a chapter, or I talk about this throughout the book. And it's really important to realize that introverts are actually very well suited for public speaking. Maybe not as much like on the fly, impromptu speaking, but structured presentations. Like introverts are so good at connecting with people and trying to understand and being empathetic. They are really great at thoughtfulness. They're prepared, right? They practice a lot. And so in a controlled setting, introverts are actually very, very well suited for public speaking. So that's one of the superpowers I mentioned in the book that maybe an untraditional superpower that you might not think of, but definitely one that exists.
I think that's certainly very, very contrarian. You mean, because one
Yeah.
would expect that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think when I tell introverts this, it's like a light bulb goes off like, "Oh, I don't have to be super loud and extroverted to do this thing." And I'd be curious from the group too, like how many of you consider yourselves I'll ask who's the extrovert in the group because I don't want to put the introverts on the spot. But yeah, like how many extroverts are there? I think a lot of us are. Yeah, I don't know if you have a stream of life poll option there, but
I don't have one, but let's do it. I mean,
yeah, let's do it.
all right. I'm just
Extroverts versus introverts of the group.
which one? All right. Introvert. Should we force people to choose one of them?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we should.
She's the
So,
one that's most like you, even if you're like kind of in the middle.
okay, let's do it. That's introvert, extrovert. All right. If you're an introvert, put a one in the chat. If it's an extrovert, put a two. And while you do that, these are two of our favorite words here at Stream Alive, by the way, because our pitch is introverts, extroverts. Everybody is a textrovert, and that's why chat power interaction on text is super powerful, right?
Lux, you have to share the right screen. You're sharing your desktop right now.
Oh, it's not a good session unless you have at least one tech issue. Is that the right one? No.
Yes. Okay, yeah, I feel like most audiences I speak to, it's usually majority introvert. So there you go. Everyone here will be a really wonderful presenter.
I mean, there are a couple of names here which I'm surprised identify as introverts, but actually it makes sense. I mean, a couple of names that I know, but a lot of folks I don't know. Wow, we got almost 70% of people as introverts, and that's very reassuring. I'm guessing what you just said. Yes, beautiful. Okay, this is pretty cool. Yeah. Actually, let's put another question out here. I had one over here. You know, since you're talking about introverts being very good with presentation, and we just established the facts that introverts are actually have a superpower for presentation. So introverts, extroverts, everybody, I'd love for you to just chime in with if there's one thing you could improve with your presentation. And I thought this is a good segue to the section you have. Ah. I need to learn that side because that's actually a very key thing, knowing when to keep quiet. I personally tend to fill silence with noise, and knowing when to shut up is an important one. Better video presence, be precise and clear. And I would love for this to be a segue for knowing from you as to you work with a lot of people. What are the biggest things, issues that you see in presentations, and where you think people can improve, right?
Sure, yeah. So I'll talk to the virtual presence piece because I think that's really foundational and very important. So in the book, I have many frameworks, but one of them is called the T method. And T stands for tech, energy, aesthetics. It's meant to be the three things that you think about before you hop on a call. And believe it or not, even many years after many of us went remote and COVID happened, there's still a lot of improvements that can happen with our virtual presence that can really allow us to show up professionally. People will think that we are more credible. We will appear more confident because we know how we're showing up. So there's a lot of fancy things you can do with your setup, but figuring out the hardware you need, the software you need to show up well, the energy. So how you start off a call. Are you turning off the autopilot small talk, which we can dive into? Are you using your hand gestures and your hands and your body language to really express your message and reaffirm your message? How do you look on camera? Again, like what's your, I talk about curating your environment. There's things behind you can do, there's things on the foreground you can do. So again, like it doesn't take much. I know video can feel overwhelming, but focus on these three things and you will be set up for success. Of course, like framing, eye contact, all these things are really important. So that's the foundational piece. And then I would think, with the actual virtual presentation itself, one thing I like to say is that you really need to think of virtual sessions more like an experience. It's not just, here's my presentation that I was going to share in person, and now I'm screen sharing and porting it over, but what are additional elements? Like virtual can be so powerful. Like look at all you're doing with Stream Alive. Like that's not going to happen, right, with an in-person event, and it's really engaging to watch. And so how can we make our videos in a professional setting a little bit more like the TikTok or the Instagram, because that's what people have come to expect, the fast moving, the changes, the dynamic factor. And so it takes a bit of a mindset shift to realize like, oh, virtual can be really powerful. It's not the worst option between the two. And there's ways that we can ensure that we're standing out. Again, if we go just a little bit above and beyond what people are doing, which is not much, that's when we really stand out and build our presence.
Oh, that's powerful. I mean, I totally agree. I'm a little biased, of course, but I do think there are a lot of things you can do better with virtual that you cannot
Yeah.
do as much in person.
Mhm.
And it's interesting that you say it's just a few tweaks that can dial it up here and there, right?
Yeah.
Do you mind just recapping what the T method and what the TEA stands for again? I think it's a good
Sure.
takeaway. Yeah,
Yeah, so tech, energy, and aesthetics.
beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I love, I was talking to someone about this session over a cup of tea recently, and I was raving about how epic it can be. And I just used three of your acronyms over there. You got the rave, you got epic, you got T. So, like I said, we got to do more sessions. You got to explain all these acronyms to people going
Yeah, not enough time today. Yeah.
right. Uh, if there's a you said little tweaks, small things can make a big difference, right?
Yeah.
And actually, I'm just going to share a couple of instructions for the audience, but just heads up on the question. Can you give one or more than one easy fixes that people can take away right after today that they can use? And while you think of that, just a quick request for folks, and this, by the way, is entirely optional. We've had this happen in past sessions where people have wanted to stay in touch because there is this kind of common tribe over here. We saw so many people are into training and facilitation, so entirely optional, but we will be sharing a list of the LinkedIn profiles of anyone who chooses to make their profile public. So if you want others to connect with you on LinkedIn in this tribe, just feel free to put your LinkedIn profile in the chat. Streamallive will automatically pull it, create a list of all links that you share, any of the links that you want to put a spotlight on. And in the after show notes that we send by tomorrow, we will be sending these links as well. Again, entirely optional. If you share it, it'll be shared with everybody who attended today's session and also signed up for the session. They're going to be getting the post show notes as well. So feel free to do that. One last point, if you have any questions for Lorraine as well, just put them in the chat anytime you want. We don't have a Q&A tab. If we did this right, we actually disabled that because we don't believe we should yell at people for putting their questions in the chat and not putting it in the Q&A tab. Just put it in the chat. Streamalive will pull all the questions. And Lorraine, I don't think this was there the last time I showed you the platform, but
Yeah.
auto categorizes questions, pulls out keywords. So
Hmm.
we've got a virtual assistant who's working on any questions that people put in the chat. So, and folks, you can put your LinkedIn and questions anytime you want. It's going to be automatically pulled in. Long preamble to that answer, Lorraine, but over to you.
Yeah, okay. I also just put my LinkedIn in the chat. So okay, there's definitely a lot of small things that you can do that have really big impact. So the one that comes to mind that is by far my favorite is adding more movement into your presentations. And I alluded to the TikTok, Instagram, like trying to make it a little bit more like that. Movement is going to be really helpful in capturing or recapturing attention and also boosting dopamine in the brain, right? Our rewards and pleasure center. And what that means is, again, we're not going to screen share and sit on a slide for 10 minutes talking about one thing. What we're going to do is we need to add more movement. So what movement is it can be changing your slides. It can be, instead of having all the text at once, having each bullet fade in. It can be including a video. All of this is movement. And you want to aim for at least 2 movements per minute. And that's going to keep people engaged. Like, think about it. Like, if someone's presenting and you're sort of doing something on the side, the moment they change the slide, what do? You look over. There's some movement, right? So that's a really simple one. And I think the more you can do, the better. It's just constantly recapturing that attention that's lost. And then related to that, state changes, which you're doing super well here, Lux, is that we we get used to seeing things. We get used to things very quickly, very easily. So again, like if you're sharing a slide, even for 5 minutes, people are going to get used to that slide. They're going to zone out. But when you can screen share, when you can add a poll, when you can ask people to put something in the chat, that is changing a pattern interrupt, right? So changing up what people are expecting and creating a state change. And again, that's also going to re-engage people and keep them focused. They realize, oh, okay, like there's a lot happening. Like I have to focus here.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah. But it makes no sense. I mean, movement catches attention, keeps you over there.
Yeah.
It breaks pattern. It breaks the monotone otherwise. And I used to dabble a little bit in stand-up comedy, and the teacher who taught us would say aim for a certain number of laughs per minute. I think at least 3 per minute. So every 20 seconds, you got to get some kind of chuckle or a laugh or something.
Yeah.
I've never heard of MPM as movements per minute. And if I recall right, you said at least 2 movements a minute is what you should be aiming for.
Virtually, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense actually with stand up. Like you need to keep the story and everything flowing. So that's a good marker, yeah.
That's pretty powerful. And I think we need to use some of this lingo in how we describe what we do at Stream Alive as well, because I mean, we never articulated it in the terms you mentioned, but a lot of what we're doing is about movement and about moving presentations from talk, 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 talk,
Yes.
listen, talk, more like a dialogue than a monologue. And a part of that is movement and pattern interrupts and everything, right?
Exactly,
Wow.
exactly. So those are some of my favorite. If you start incorporating that, people will for sure pay more attention. And maybe just an interesting point for the people who are more interested in like the background of it is that it's actually connected to our caveman days, right? Where the prey or things that stood still were not threatening. The things that were moving around, the possible predators, like that catches our eye, and I think that that has really, stayed the course even now.
That's very interesting. Yeah, that's true, right? Your peripheral vision often
Yeah, you're
captures.
like, oh, what's that? Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So be threatening at all times by having movement and
Yeah.
just no, you mentioned favorites, and I don't mean to put you in the spot, but you got a lot of fascinating people you've interviewed for the book, and I think I called out some of the names from the back cover over here, including some of our favorite Zoomies like Eric Juan. I know you met Brendan as well, and you spoke about Arun. Um, Tell us the inside goss about some of those conversations, some of the interesting ones. What's some of the communication advice they shared from you? Because a lot of these people are authorities in communication.
Oh my gosh. So that was one of my favorite parts of the book. So as you mentioned, Lux, I had the chance to interview nearly 3 dozen C-suite leaders, content creators with millions of followers, communication experts, best-selling authors. It was such a joy. And each conversation I walked away with something new. You know, you're not always sure with a big number like that, but everyone was really, really helpful. One concept that has been very popular is one that actually Kim Scott, who wrote Radical Candor, that she shared with me called the email haiku, which is basically the concept of, a haiku is a very short poem, which is anytime you send an email, you want the email to fit on your smartphone screen without requiring any scrolling. And in this day and age, it's like so go, go, go. We're slacking, we're emailing, like there's just so much communication happening. It can be so easy to fire something off without thinking thoughtfully about it. But if you spend that extra 20 minutes to really make that email as tight and concise as possible, to really make your ask clear, that eliminates all the unnecessary back and forth, the wasted productivity where you email me, Lux, and I'm like, wait, what did you mean this? And then we're going back and forth, and it's just losing a bunch of time. So that was one of my favorite tips, the email haiku. And then let's see what else. Um, Daniel Pink was also a really, just have admired him for so long. And so he was a speechwriter for Al Gore at one point. And so he made the point of you can almost always cut things out. When you are familiar with your content, there's always something that you can shorten to keep it tighter. I think that's certainly the case for presentations as well. And that but we get so excited about a topic, we want to include every single thing, like everything that's in our mind, but we have to remember who the audience is, what's actually important to them, what do they care about, and then cut and edit accordingly.
That's such an important in written communication and also in spoken communication. Like I have a bad habit of saying things in the active voice and then to fill the sound, saying it in, again in the passive voice, and just cutting is just so important. I think Said mentioned it earlier, knowing when to shut up in a conversation, but also in written. And email haiku is a beautiful way of capturing it, right? Who shared that one again?
It was Kim Scott.
Wow.
Yeah, the brilliant Kim
Great.
Scott. Yeah.
Any other pieces of communication advice that you can share from the conversations?
Let's see here. I mean, gosh, let's see. Oh, another good one. Wes Cow from Maven, who you might be familiar with, Lux. Wes had so many great nuggets. She also shared this concept inspired from the military bluff, bottom line up front, which is pretty equivalent to like a TLDR, too long didn't read, or like an executive summary. But I think those are really, really powerful. So explaining, okay, what is the specific thing? Sorry, my camera is just, I told them. I updated my software, tech issue. So Bluff, it's like, what is the most important thing? Put it at the top, and then you can add the context afterwards. But again, we don't want to bury people in the context and the details if they don't want it. So you have to also understand the context and the situation to be able to concisely explain what the bluff is. So that was another one that I think is super helpful.
What is that one called again? The one
Bottom line up front, bluff.
bluff. Wow, interesting. It just amazes me how Wes has this way with words, right? Isn't she the one
She
who came up with
does.
the spiky point of view as well? Wasn't that her?
Yep, yep. She is brilliant. Yes.
She's got a beautiful way with words, and I remember those conversations from the Maven days. It's
Yeah,
just in terms of written stuff, everything, and it's fantastic that you got to have all these beautiful conversations with so many people, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, shout out to Zoom for the AI companion. I'm glad we have the AI companion running for this because there are so many of these amazing terms that you used, and I wish I had noted down all of them. But I'm glad the AI companion is going to be capturing a lot of these, and we can have them afterwards. That's
Very
fantastic.
nice.
Uh, I, I'm a big believer in collective learning. So, folks, after this, a little while down, just I think it's great when all of us learn together because there's so many different things that Lorraine has shared that at least me, I'm pretty sure I've forgotten more than a couple. So, besides relying on AI companion, I want to rely all of us to rely on each other. So, in a bit, what I'm going to do is just ask everyone to recap some of the lessons that we've learned today. So, we literally have a tree of everything, so we can kind of share with each other. But before that, I want to switch tracks to one of the platforms where I know you're pretty active with a little more than 300,000 followers. You have your courses on LinkedIn, and I've seen a couple of them. I absolutely love them. But before jumping in, I just want to make sure, check if you're actually preaching to the choir over here. So I'm going to share the correct screen this time. And folks, if LinkedIn is your preferred poison, just type the number one in the chat. If it's X, number two. If it's YouTube, you know the drill, right? If you had to choose one of these, because Lorraine talked a lot about movement and TikTok and other stuff and video, and I know you do a lot of video as well. So there's a lot of Insta. Others, I wanted to see if we cover that as well.
Yeah. Hope
Okay,
it's LinkedIn. If not, I'm gonna convince everyone to get on LinkedIn.
let's do that as well. You got a few people saying Instagram and TikTok, and you got YouTube, and you got LinkedIn. And I'm going to roll a whole bunch of questions into one and take them as
Sure,
well,
sure.
if that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, of course.
you do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. A lot of us get hung up on the algorithm and how it's changing
Yes.
and stuff.
Hmm.
What I loved about your book is I think a lot of the things you talk about on the chapter on LinkedIn are pretty timeless. They are not like, hey, today's thing is carousel's work and only do
Yeah,
carousel. That's what I loved about it because too many people get a little too buried in the tactics, right? You were giving tactical advice, but you were not making it such that its shelf life is exactly 1 quarter before the next shiny object comes on, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
there, we don't have big fans of Elon Musk in the room, and we have a lot of LinkedIn, about 58%. I'm
Great.
not sure if you allowed multiple things to be chosen, people would have chosen, you'd have even more on LinkedIn, but a lot of other folks who are doing YouTube, Instagram, and at least one person saying other. I'm very curious about that. But tell us about LinkedIn, about video. How should we be thinking about it? Over to
I'm so glad to see many of you on LinkedIn. LinkedIn I describe as really our ultimate virtual water cooler, our virtual landing page, and our ultimate virtual office. And so if we are trying to build our unforgettable presence, we want to have a presence on LinkedIn at the virtual office, right? That's where everyone is hanging out. And so that's, first a mindset shift to realize, okay, it's not just a job site, but it's actually a wonderful place to build your thought leadership, stay top of mind, and meet new and interesting people. To your point, Lux, it is so easy to get wrapped up in, oh my gosh, like the engagement, the algorithm, like what is the latest and newest and greatest thing. And so I interviewed my former colleague, Andrew Seaman. He is a senior editor there. And I asked him, and I said, Andrew, tell me, like, what do people need to know about the algorithm? Like, I have my answer, but then everyone still asks. And thankfully his answer aligned with mine, which is basically don't worry too much about the algorithm. An algorithm's job is to inherently learn and change where we don't always know what's going on behind the scenes. Like sometimes the engineers at LinkedIn, you ask them, they're like, I mean, we built it, but like it's changing, so we can't be super prescriptive. And so knowing that, it's really about okay, consistency, and that's the hardest part. Oh, getting started is probably the hardest part, and then consistency. A lot of people they'll say to me, "Oh, I have this thought, but I'm just, I have imposter syndrome, or I'm worried about what my colleagues are going to say, or I don't want to be seen as an influencer, or, so many reasons." But what I always say is, one, don't worry about what they think, because they're just jealous of you if you're putting yourself out there. Like it's a hard thing to do. And that there's really no original thoughts on LinkedIn. Now, there's no original thoughts. Like, you shouldn't put that pressure on yourself to have an original thought. What people connect with is you as a person, your particular stories, your particular challenges, or the way that you position or frame things. Like you mentioned, Lex, like I have a lot of frameworks. Like people have talked about, different aspects of it at different points, but have they packaged it in such a way? No, and that's maybe what people resonate, or people resonate with the fact that I'm an introvert or I got laid off or, whatever story it is. So knowing that, hopefully this gives the folks who are maybe a little bit hesitant to feel confident to post on LinkedIn. And then the thing about LinkedIn is you have to stay consistent and to not expect a dopamine burst, with social media. LinkedIn is a longer game. It's going to take some time, but the power with building your presence on LinkedIn is that one, people have a more positive impression of you, a favorable impression of you, even with never speaking to you. I think that's a very powerful thing, right? Like they think, oh wow, this person looks so accomplished, they're so amazing. I haven't even met them yet. It's just from your LinkedIn. You stay top of mind. So if there are opportunities, podcast interviews, speaking engagements, a job, like people are going to remember you at the moment that something comes up versus they never hear from you, they forget that you exist. And then also, you pretty much, with a strong LinkedIn presence, I think you have a pretty good chance of connecting with whoever you want, which is a very cool thing, right? Because a lot of us do this. Strangers add us on LinkedIn. Oh, who is this person? I'm going to click through and I'm going to make a, kind of a superficial judgment on their legitimacy and credibility. And if you look good, then people are more likely to accept.
Hmm. Just want to touch upon a few points, if that's okay, that you
Yeah,
mentioned.
please. Mhm.
Let me go in reverse order in terms of most recent memory first. You said looks good. So is it also your opinion that not enough people get the basics right in terms of a clear profile picture, a line that explains what you do without putting your entire biography out there? Anything that people can do to simplify and get some early quick wins there?
Yeah, that's a great call out. So profile, definitely foundational. Content is like level two, sort of building on the foundational block. So with your profile, of course, there's a lot of things you can do, but I'll call out some of the most impactful. So you said it looks a nice profile picture, and don't have it be far away. Have it zoom closer to your face because on mobile, it's going to be really hard to see you if you're zoomed out. Your background photo, that is, as I describe it, the billboard of your LinkedIn page. And my book has many different templates you can grab if you're interested. But that, so many people leave that to chance. They're just like, I'm going to use LinkedIn's default image, or I'm going to use like a random stock photo of nature. Unless you are the photographer who took that photo, I'm not learning anything about you. So we want our background photo to tell a story for people to understand who we are, to share some information. Your headline, also really key. You don't want to just include your job. You want to include keywords that you want to be discoverable for, because your headline actually helps with discoverability within LinkedIn, also with Google search. So that's very powerful. And I'll just give a fourth bonus one. One of my favorites that I think is very neglected is the testimonials or recommendation section at the bottom of a profile. This is what I call Yelp for Professional, so it's your social proof. So I just hired my first full-time person, and one of the first things I did for each of the finalists, I went to the bottom of their profile to see, has anyone said anything before about working with them? And the people who had really great testimonials, I did think more positively about them. I was more excited because I had this social proof that at least someone in the past has enjoyed working with them. And so you can ask after a speaking event, you can ask your colleagues. It doesn't have to be in between jobs after a big project. So don't leave that section to chance. I think it can be very, very powerful.
Oh, that's a good one. Here, all my friends listening over here, feel free to give me a testimonial or recommendation on LinkedIn. Shamelessly putting it out there. But you're right? We have all these conscious and unconscious biases on these things that come into our decision making process, and it's so important. And by the way, congratulations on your first full time person. That's a big
Thank
milestone.
you. Yes, very, very excited. Yeah.
And just trying to pull out something here as you were speaking, just to call out. I promise that Lorraine has not paid me to market the book, but something I loved over here was a lot. The chapters have these QR codes which take you to additional resources. So the one on LinkedIn has a QR code which presumably takes one to those banners and templates that you mentioned that you can then use over there. So it's like an interactive book. You can actually use stuff and pull it off your website and use it and everything. Beautiful. Very nicely done. I just want to touch upon one other thing, right, which I know is there, and it in a lot of people's minds. Certainly is there in mine as well on occasion and stuff, right? You talked about the journey, and you said you start off with imposter syndrome. You're like, who wants to listen to what I have to say? And I couldn't agree more. Everything is. I was just trying to pull up that book, Steal Like an Artist, which talks about the fact that there is no original thought. Everything is in some ways a regurgitation of things you've already
Sure.
seen or experienced before.
Yeah.
And then at some point, people get past that imposter syndrome, and for lack of a better term, they get into influencer syndrome, I would like to think, where you suddenly expect you've posted 4 times over the last week and then crickets, and you're like, oh gosh, no one's listening. And then you kind of, that enthusiasm, that initial burst of enthusiasm almost dies out. It's probably not there for someone like you at this stage where you have 300,000 plus followers, but at some stage you did not have 300,000 followers. So how was it, if you were to rewind back to those times when you were still consistently putting things out there when you had less than 10,000 people following? Would the advice be any different? How does one sustain energy, enthusiasm? I mean, the energy in the team method, how do you sustain that in something
Yeah.
like this, right?
I mean, I think a lot of it, you have to think about it as experimentation, and you have to realize that if something is uncomfortable, you're growing. If everything was just so easy, I mean, life would be pretty boring. And so I think a lot of mindset shifts can be helpful there. I have, for LinkedIn specifically, the 4 E's framework that kind of gives you an outline of, okay, 4 steps and how many posts you have to make to feel comfortable with step one, step two, step three, step four. So a lot of it is pure repetition and practice, which I know is not like fun, always fun to do, but it's being willing to do the thing despite, maybe not seeing the results you want or despite it being a little bit uncomfortable. And one thing, my book coach, she was so helpful with this mindset shift. With me talking about my book so much ahead of launch, I was a little bit uncomfortable. Again, like the introverts don't like all the attention. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I just like repeating myself? Are people going to get sick of hearing from me? Are they going to think I'm obnoxious? And she said, think of it this way. You are being selfish if you don't talk about your book because your book is meant to help people. And so if you're not talking about it, you're keeping it to yourself, and that's not a very nice thing to do. And so all of you have lessons to share, you have a message, a story. And so someone out there needs to hear it. And it will take time. Again, this is like if it was so easy, everyone would be doing it, right? But not everyone is doing it. I think only something like 1% or 300, I can't remember the exact number, but 1% of LinkedIn's like monthly users are posting actively on LinkedIn. So
Oh,
you see a lot of content, but it's like, wow, there's still a lot of opportunity here. Like a lot of people are not doing it. So you got to push through that discomfort. That's where the magic happens.
very powerful. And I'm glad your mentor coach told you what they did, because here we
Yeah.
have you sharing all that as a result of that. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I know there are a few questions coming in. I want to make sure we have some time for questions, and we also need to give away a couple of copies of your book, and we want people to recap. So we've got a bit more to cover. So I'm going to just jump in there. Let's do this if that's okay. I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah.
Let me give you a quick heads up on questions. So I don't know if I showed you this before, Lorraine, but what's happening here is any questions that people have asked in the chat come up here, and so we have 4 questions so far. Do you have strategies for different meeting outcomes? Syed is curious about what the other that people put. Is it 10? We'll figure that out later, Syed. How do you bring your authentic self to a meeting? And would you recommend the slideshow in a personal LinkedIn banner? Any of these questions speak to you and you'd like to address them right away, Lorraine?
Let's do the LinkedIn one since we're talking about LinkedIn. Yes, so that's a premium feature. If you go to my LinkedIn, you will see the banner is just moving on its own. I think it's really cool. And people have given me nice feedback on my banner. So not a must-have, but if you're trying to stand out, maybe you're looking for a job, you're trying to, oh yeah, real time. You can
That's
do
good.
a
Yep. So that's what you're talking about.
yeah. So yeah, so I'm obviously promoting my book very heavily right now, but I think it's great if you're open to using premium. I think that's one of the coolest features right now. Another great premium feature that surprises people is an auto away message. So if you message me, you will see that I will have an auto away message that will say, hey, I'm going to respond soon, and here's some helpful resources in the meantime. So if you're running a business, that is a very helpful tip.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And these carousels also with the dots and things, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a newer feature. Yeah, I haven't seen that many people use it. So you're looking to stand out, create your stronger LinkedIn presence. That's definitely one way.
So if we follow you on LinkedIn, we're going to keep getting all these tips on a regular basis, right?
Yes, yes. Five to six times a week I post.
Actually, this is where I'm going to take some help from everyone. Let's actually give away one copy of the book right now. And then I'd love for, as we do that, folks, just a heads up, if you can look down on your notes, whether it's on your phone or your laptop or your notebook, just pull up multiple answers for people, just pull up some of the things you learned from today so we can collectively put them out over here besides the AI summary. Let's get some human summaries as well going, and just put them down as talking tiles going forward. So just keep those ready with you, and I'll ask for them in a second. What we'll do right now is let's pull. So what it's done here is pull anybody who's participated in the chat so far. So I don't have to type all of these names. So you're able to see my screen, right, Lorraine?
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. And I'm just going to have this bad habit of forgetting to share sound. So I'm going to share this because we recently introduced sound in this and I'm in love with it.
Cool.
I'm going to share sound as well. And just give me a thumbs up if the sound comes through, please.
Mhm.
So we're going to spin this. We're going to end up with one person for now, and we are going to give away one copy of your book. And to the person who wins, I'll give the instructions later. Yeah, let's do that.
I don't think I'm hearing any sound.
I forgot to turn
Oh,
on.
there it is. I got it. It does sound. Yeah. Yay.
Yes. So, Fauzia, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Congratulations. And all right. This is, by the way, Fauzia's participation that got her the winning ticket. She talked about remembering to raise her seat. That's a nice tip, actually. So my name isn't covering my face. And said in the power polls, more tools, technology educator. So we know everything about Fauzia from this session today as well. And so Fauzia, if you can just email us afterwards at marketing@streamalive.com, and just we'll get your details and we'll send you a copy of Lorraine's book. In I buy books in hard copy. There is a Kindle version as well if people prefer that, right, Lorraine?
Yeah, yeah, and audiobook.
And audiobook. Okay, so email us, let us know which format you'd like, and we will send you a copy of Lorraine's book. Right.
So fun. I want to be spinning 20 times.
Let's do a different spin if that's okay. So now
Yeah.
you got to earn your spin now, folks. What we're
Yeah.
going to do here is something different. We're going to run we're just riffing things, yeah, making stuff up right now. What's something you today, right? So just share your lessons, anything, allow multiple responses, show people's names. Let's get some sound as well as the things come, and let's get a whoosh sound as they disappear. Do you want whoosh or a brick fall? Let's do a brick fall. Okay, that sounds really good. Let's do that. Okay, so lessons that you learned today. In a few words, it's more frequent than 1 minute. Hey, thank you for joining us, Trace. Very nice to have you here. Thank you, John. Many things about LinkedIn, frequent interaction every 2 minutes. Oh, yes. And I think movement twice every minute, you said, right?
Oh, yeah. So I think there's a little confusion about the number. So it's 2 movements per minute,
Oh, so every
at
30
least.
seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a bit loud. The brick thing that's falling off. Break the monotony.
It's dramatic.
Hey, we're doing real-time testing.
Yeah.
Bluff, bottom line up front. 2 movements per minute. That's correct. Yes, absolutely. Okay, we're just going to put this on for another 5 seconds. And then what we're going to do is pick one person from people who answered this specific question. Right. So let's do this. We got these things that we call secondary interactions. I'm just going to pick somebody. So this is everybody who participated in the last one. So you have to earn by contributing in there. And let's see who we get over here. And Fauzia, heads up, if you win a game, they're going to give it to somebody else. You're going to spin it a second time. Thank you. I promise I did not rig this. And I forgot to turn on the sound for this one, but I have a copy. So I'm going to delete my name from the ring. So I just removed my name so that I don't show up again. But hey, I'm going to go out and buy a lottery ticket because today is probably my lucky day. Deborah, congratulations.
All right.
Beautiful. And let's just go through a couple of things over here. So folks, we're almost coming up on time. I would love I'll show a couple of things and then I'd love one last thing from you, but very quickly, here are all the links that everybody shared. So I am just going to pull up this link over here. Here it is. And I'm going to put this in the chat as well. So here's a link. The last link I just shared in the chat is a link of everybody's LinkedIn profile and everything. You'll also get it in the post show notes, but Streamlive has auto-compiled all the links that it found over here, which is mostly LinkedIn. I don't know if anyone shared anything else. I'd be surprised. Anyone on Twitter? No, it's mostly LinkedIn. But all the links that people shared, including my Linktree, for example, are all kept over here. So there you have it. Just out of curiosity, Syed wins us. Syed participated the most. Tina, Arba, this is just a pecking list of how often people participated in the sessions. And we got the questions, we got this. Perfect. And just to wrap up, I would love for us to give, is this the correct one? Yes. So if you can give us an emoji of what you thought of today's session. You can give multiple emojis. So there's a set for multiple answers per person. So in an emoji, what did you think of today's session? And Lorraine, if this was 3 years ago, what we'd have done is convert these pictures that you're getting on my screen right now into an NFT and give it to you, and you'd be a multimillionaire because this would be but we live in saner times now. But hopefully that shows you how much people appreciated what you did today.
Yeah. Thank
The
you all.
alpacas are special. Side reserves them for special ones. That's a thing of really love the session. But gosh, so many things, so much to unpack. And like I said, we definitely need to do more of these. It's been lovely to host you. It's been a pleasure reading your book. And I'm glad that more people are going to be reading it after this session for free or otherwise.
Yeah. I really appreciate how active this chat was. I can always tell, like, just very quickly if a group is going to be really engaged, really enthusiastic, and so you all were wonderful. Thank you for so much chat today, and love seeing all the latest with Stream Alive. I can't wait to use it.
Thank you, and neither can we. We can't wait for you to use it. But lots of love pouring in there. Thank you so much for doing this session, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Those of you who've been here before know that we do these every couple of weeks or so. So I think the next one is coming up in 2 weeks' time. We usually do it on a Wednesday around the same time. So, and you will be getting emails on this. Love to have you join us. We plan to do more and more. We've had Said do sessions with us before. We've been telling John he should be doing a session with us down the lines. And some of the people in the audience today will be coming back for sessions as well. But thanks so much for joining us, for carving out an hour of your time today with us. Look forward to seeing you in future sessions. Take care. See you all.
Bye.